In this presentation, I'll demonstrate how to use Jamboard in your classroom with Google Meet. So basically what you need to know is that Jamboard is very similar to a Google Slide presentation. Just like Google Slides, it allows students to interact and collaborate on different slides. The difference is that this is much more of an interactive whiteboard. So it has fewer tools than a Google Slides presentation, and it's really meant for real quick time collaboration. So I'm going to go through a few different examples here on how teachers have used this in their classrooms. So I'm first going to navigate through on how to on the different tools within Google Jamboard. First of all, on the left-hand side, you have your basic toolbar. So you have a pen tool, and when you click on it, you'll see that you have either a pen, a marker, a highlighter, or a paintbrush, and then just some very basic tools. Again, you're not going to see a whole wide variety of different options here because the idea is for very quick and convenient collaboration. Next, you got a tool to erase, so any drawing that you do. So for example, if I choose a yellow pen and I do some writing on here, I can use the eraser to erase that. I've got an undo button here, so I can quickly undo that. Your arrow or pointer tool here is your basic navigation and tool to move items around. You've got a tool here for sticky notes, and you've got 5 different colors here for sticky notes. And then you can add an image, which is all I did here. This is just an image, a Google image that I searched for. And then you can also add shapes. So if you want to circle something, draw a box around it, whatever it might be, you've got those options as well. So in this example, I might do a circle to place around that. If I don't want to be filled in white, then I can just say transparent in the middle and move that around. 3 dots here allow me to either duplicate it or delete it or change the order of either to the front or to the back. In this case, I'm just going to choose delete. Then my basic text box tool, and then a laser pointer to kind of show students what you're talking about. I'm going to go back just to the normal pointer here. And then your top toolbar, we talked about how to undo or redo your last step. You can zoom in. So if I click the magnifier, I can zoom in on a particular part of that slide. Click the pull down arrow and choose fit to fit back into my 100% screen. If I choose background, I can change that background. So if you're a math teacher, you might want to change it to a grid view. Otherwise, you can also change it to a couple different colors here. Most teachers just leave this as a whiteboard. If I choose clear frame, that's going to take everything that's on that whiteboard and clear it, whether it's an image or whether it's writing. But again, I can undo that if I want to bring that back. The next thing is up on top here. You can see that I am on slide number 1 out of 11. And if I click the next frame, that'll take me to the next slide. So this is how you navigate to your different slides. And then you can also click the pull down arrow and you can see a thumbnail of all of those slides, and you can click to go directly to that first slide, and then click here to kind of roll up that little navigation bar. In the upper right-hand corner here where it says open on a Jamboard, it's important for you to know that this tool was not really designed for teachers. The tool was really designed for a product that Google has called Jamboard. Jamboard is a large projection TV that's interactive. So you can touch on it to move items around, you can write, and the whole program that goes along with is Jamboard. So it's kind of like a smart board, but it's Google's version that they call Jamboard. And then you can see you've got your traditional share tool here that allows you to share this, this deck of slides, this Jamboard with your students according to whatever sharing permissions you would normally have. All right, so what I'm going to do now is if I was in a Google Meet, I would, in the lower right-hand corner, I would click the 3 dots. One of the options that you would have there would be to, and I don't know if this will show up on the video or not, but one of the options here would say whiteboard, open a jam. And when I click on that, it's going to give me a couple different options here. One is to start a new whiteboard. The other option is to choose from Drive. And when I click choose from Drive, That's going to allow me to choose any jams that I've maybe already created. So I'm going to select the Jamboard that I currently have up and that I'm presenting on. And what this will do is it'll automatically place a link in the chat room so that anybody else who is currently on that Google Meet can click that link and join that particular Google Jamboard. All right, so I'm going to open that one back up, just close out of that, and then just present back over here. So I'm going to go to my next slide and just go through a couple different examples. This particular example, this slide, was used by a language arts teacher to kind of help their students identify different parts of a sentence, like your nouns, your verbs, your adjectives, and your prepositions. So for example, they maybe had this noun box listed over here, and then I'll just delete these other ones. So I'm just clicking on the box and hitting the delete key on my keyboard. So this template would have been set up something like this. So they may have a few different slides with this same template, and then they'll tell their students maybe to group up and to start identifying the nouns. So a student might click this, and they might identify fox as one of the nouns, and they draw a box around that. But then they realize, oh, wait, there is another noun here, dog. So what they can do is they can click on the box and the three dots, and they can either duplicate it, or on their keyboard, if they hit Control D will also duplicate, and they can identify the other noun. And then you would repeat that same process for your verbs. And again, Control D will duplicate it. Oops, I grabbed the image. So there you can see how this isn't always designed exactly how we're planning on using it. So jumps, and I can identify the verb like that, and so on. So you kind of get the idea of one way that a teacher could use this in the classroom. On the next slide, I've got an example here of how if maybe you're going to have a debate in class and you wanted students to list the pros and cons of a particular topic. In this case, we're going to talk about driverless cars. So just like you would maybe normally do in a live classroom where you're having students walk up to a whiteboard and kind of put sticky notes up on the whiteboard, you can do that same thing virtually. And in this particular example, I may have these sticky notes laid out, so a bunch of these plain ones with just a pro idea, and maybe just list these out so that students can grab one. Once they click on it, they can double click, and then they can enter their own ideas. And when they click save, what the sticky note will do is it'll automatically adjust the text to the size of the sticky note. So the larger I make the sticky note, the larger my text will be. And of course, the smaller the sticky note, the smaller my text will be. If one is laid on top of each other, you can click and you can change the order if you want to bring one to the front or to the back. But in general, your sticky notes probably will not be stacked on top of each other. Over here on the cons side, we can also demonstrate that if you double click, you can change the text, but you can also change the color of that sticky note. And then on this next slide is where I demonstrated how you could create this particular slide. So for example, if I clear this, again, there's not a lot of design tools. So the design of your slides in a Google Jamboard are generally not going to be as clean as what you would have on a Google Slides presentation. So to show you how I did that, what I would do is I would click on my text tool down here, and I might say pros, and then click on my text tool again, and over here say cons. And then from there, you can see my text might be a little bit small, so I can change it from normal to subtitle or title or display, so you can see how it gets larger and smaller as I choose those different options. I can't change the font. They just keep it real basic and simple. And again, the idea with that is the fact that with fewer tools to kind of play around with means that you're going to spend less time on trying to make everything look pretty and get right to that collaboration point. Now the next part, I might want to get a little icon here of a thumbs up and a thumbs down. So I can go to my images here, and on my images, I've got different images that I can import. One of those could be a Google image search. So I'll just say thumbs up and do a search for that. And as I scroll down, I might decide that I want this green thumb right here. Click select. And then I can resize that just by grabbing the corner. And these are going to be my pros over here. And then I can choose that image icon again and just change that from thumbs up to thumbs down. Do a search for that. And maybe here I'm going to grab this red thumbs down. And then once that is selected, again, resize that and place that over here. Now the next thing is I want some type of T-graph in here to kind of separate this. And I might look here under my pen. Well, there's really no way for me to be able to draw a nice straight line because if my pen, that doesn't turn out real well, so I'm going to undo that. And if I look here under my circle, again, I don't have a straight line. I could maybe try and do it with a box, but again, it's going to draw a box. It's not going to draw just a line. So that's kind of a tool that I feel is kind of missing from here right now. But then I started thinking, well, I could maybe do a search for a T-graph diagram. So if I say T diagram, as I scroll down here, I found one right there. I was able to click select, and then I just use that as to make my T diagram for this process. Then from there, went into my sticky notes, and I wanted my green ones here on the left-hand side, so I chose green. And then I said this was a pro idea, and click save. Now I've got a sticky note over here on this side. I can either click the three dots to duplicate one, or on my keyboard hit Control D to just add those. And then I'm going to add another one to bring over here, but I want these to be red. So I'll double click, and I don't have a red, but I can make it pink. And then this time though, they are con idea. Save. Oops, just con. And then again, I'm going to hit that three dots to duplicate, or Control D to make extra ones there. So that might be how I set up my template. Again, kind of picture this like a big whiteboard. You just took a black marker, you drew a line and a line down to kind of separate the pros and cons. And then you just stuck up some sticky notes here for students to grab and start putting in their ideas. All right, on the next slide, this was an example of using Mad Libs. So on Mad Libs there, I think over here we originally had a girl's name. So students had to put in a girl's name. Then for a noun, they put in 3 different nouns, some type of vehicle. And over on the next slide, we are able to put these sticky notes up here and put in the Mad Lib according to the words that they chose. And you do that by once they put in a noun. So let's say this is dog. Click save. What I can do is if I right click on that, I can choose, oh, I guess I can't right click, but if I click on it once, just a normal click and go Control X, that will cut that sticky note. And then over on the next page, I can do Control V. Control V will paste that sticky note, and I can place that sticky note right onto my Mad Lib. And you get the idea for the rest of those words then. Here's another example of a teacher who chose this as a way of kind of dissecting a book a little bit. So they're looking into the character detail. This example, it was probably Charlotte's Web and looking at Wilbur. So what are some character details of Wilbur? And you could have another slide where maybe another group of students then are working on, you know, the character detail of Charlotte, and so on. In this example, we just use this in our presentation today to talk a little bit about brainstorming ideas for Jamboard. And you can see we just had empty sticky notes here. People selected the different sticky notes in different ways to be able to use that on the Jamboard to break up some different brainstorming ideas in the classroom. Somebody asked during this time, you know, how effective it was to use the pen tool or the marker tool and writing on the whiteboard. And I feel like it's not very effective at all unless you're trying to do something simple just by like putting in a little X or maybe crossing something out. But as far as trying to write like brainstorm, that can be real difficult with a mouse. If you're using this with something like an iPad, you might have a little bit more success. Or maybe if you're using some type of laptop that has a touch screen on it, that might work better as well. But I would not attempt probably to write anything out here other than a little check mark or maybe circling something. Other than that, I wouldn't do much with this marker tool. If you want to write anything out, I would generally recommend either using the sticky notes or using the text box tool to write something out from there. And then the last thing, just as a reminder, creating the Jamboard, all you're doing is you're going into the three dots in the lower right-hand corner. You're clicking on to add a new Jamboard or one that you've already created from your Google Drive. And then that will automatically paste into the chat room, and that's how your students get access to that Jamboard. If for some reason you need to change the share permissions, you just click share in the upper right-hand corner, and then you can change those share permissions for that particular Jamboard. One thing that's important to note about this is that unlike most of your other Google tools like Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, all of those tools have version history. In other words, if a student on a collaborative project, if they go in and delete everything, you can always go back and look to find out who the student was that deleted it. On a Jamboard, you do not have that option. So there is no version history in this. If I look at the three dots, I've got very basic tools here. I can download it as a PDF, I can save it as an image, I can rename the file. But as far as actually being able to see anything, at first I thought maybe the updates would be the place. But if you look at the updates, it's really just telling you if there's any updates on Jamboard itself. So as far as a version history, that is not built into Jamboard at this time. But those are the basic directions of how to get started with Jamboard and using it in your classroom on a Google Meet.